All right, we are back. Welcome to another episode of Am I Doing This Wrong? You're back with your same hosts, as always, same gals, new topic. Excited to dive into conversation today. How you doing, Morgan?
I'm doing well. Quick update to last week's episode. I know I was talking about like some heavy shit that I was trying to work through, mental health stuff and all that. So I did have a good conversation with my therapist in case anyone wanted an update. So yeah, working on that. That was good. Last night I had a bit of a traumatic experience. I was washing my face and then I was like wiping my face off with a washcloth. And then I looked in like the side mirror, like where the medicine cabinet is.
Okay.
And there's a fucking spider on my head. I know.
Sorry, so you saw the spider in the medicine cabinet mirror? Yes. Oh my gosh, that's like straight out of a scary movie.
Yeah, it was horrifying. So after like slapping myself in the head a bunch of times, like ripping off my t-shirt and like just, thinking it's all over my body, I couldn't find it either. So I was like really looking. I was thinking it was in my hair, so I'm like combing through my hair. It was very jarring.
Did you ever find it? Like, did you see it somewhere? Oh, God damn it, Morgan.
It could still be in there. I don't know. Yeah. I showered earlier, so hopefully not, but we'll see.
For everyone out there, she does shower regularly, so it will be rinsed sometime this month. It'll be out.
It might be. I don't know. It might be like, what is that? Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Do you know that book? No. Oh no, this is not Ryann's like genre. Never mind. Okay, for anyone who knows what I'm talking about, there's that story of the girl who has looks like a pimple on her cheek, and then it grows and grows, and then it ends up being like spider eggs in there, and spiders come out.
You guys literally my worst nightmare, and I've never even read this book.
It's a kid's book. I'll have to share it with Ryann.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
She'll love it, obviously.
If I have a mental breakdown anytime soon, you know why. It's because Morgan sent me a really bad book.
It's a classic.
Yeah. Death by reading.
Death by reading. There you go. Yeah. What about you? How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Not horrible, but not particularly great. So I actually had to reschedule my appointment with my therapist this week. Just like a scheduling conflict, which at first I was like, oh yeah, because I was actually kind of feeling sick this week. I wasn't feeling the best. And so we actually ended up missing a recording date because of it. Not only because of that, but somewhat. And I was like, oh, that's okay. We can catch up next week. But honestly, I kind of do wish that we had that appointment. There's just been some small things, small snafus, if you will. And I would have liked to talk that out more. But I do have like the voice message portion of it as well. I needed to use it. I haven't done it. I'll probably check in with her tomorrow. But yeah, just a few things that, are really going to change within like the next year for myself. And I would really like to kind of get some clarity on that. One of the things that she did compliment me on was that she said that I'm good at talking through things. And so like, even though I don't always, I don't have like weekly meetings with her. I have bi-weekly, but now this would be like a third week that I do well with the voice message. She said that she doesn't feel like by the end I'm just like completely lost or, like rambling, that I do try to find a solution, which I do think that's like a coping mechanism for myself. I think I try to always find a resolution by the end of the conversation or by the end of the monologue that I send her. But then that is probably somewhat, masking, my issues in some way, because I'm like, oh, I don't want to leave her thinking that, which I'm like, Ryann, why are you trying to like modify your messages so that you can like be good at therapy? Which,
right.
That's, I mean,
that's a great way to put it. I do the same thing. Like, I will try and I'll like take my therapist position as I'm telling her like an issue I'm trying to work through. I'm like, oh, well, it's probably because of this and the X and Y and Z. And I'm like, she's like, oh yeah, you really work through things. But really it's like, okay, but she also is here for a reason to do a job. I don't need to like also, take her role in the situation. So I know what you mean.
Exactly.
I'm guilty of that too.
Right, exactly. If you go to, a restaurant and you order some food, don't order it as is and then take off half the ingredients. You know what I mean? Like, order it the way you want it so that the people who are paid to prepare it can do it the way you want it. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't do that. I love everything on every type of food, but I do notice
without the onions. I'm not a big fan of like raw onions and things.
That's a common one.
Yeah.
But I do notice that, like you've probably went somewhere with someone and they're like, oh no, just as is. And then you get to your table and they're like, yeah, I'm just going to pick off the tomato and the lettuce and the onion and like scrape off a little bit of the mayo. And like, it's just like, hey, they're paid to do this. Don't feel bad for, needing the services that you need. And that's something that I'm definitely working through. That was one conversation we had where my therapist asked me, like, do you think that you can fail at therapy? And I was like, yes, I definitely feel like I could fail at this. And that's a huge kind of chasm that kept me from actually like getting into any real issues, because I was just like, but I'm fine. Like, I'm sure it's okay. Like, I'll get through it. Okay, bye. And she's like, well, I'm a therapist, so I also like know a little bit about psychology, and it doesn't really work that way. But that, that's tied up in, wanting to people please and also not wanting to be a burden, always feeling like I'm putting the onus on someone for something that I should be doing myself. Right. So that has a lot of ways of playing out in my life. So that was a huge kind of, I don't know, like realization moment, which is why I needed to start like my no journal. And she was like, write down what you say no to, because you'll realize that you might be never saying no when you should be saying no pretty often. Saying no is like a revolutionary act. It's like the best thing you can do for yourself sometimes. So
yeah, that's really true. And like, I had a great conversation with my therapist about everything that we were talking about last week, but there were moments where she was like, okay, Morgan, yeah, like I understand where you're coming from. And like, I think you handled that situation well, but you also have a responsibility and accountability to your own actions, which I was a little bit like, like that doesn't feel great, but it, like overall, one, she's right. I do have a responsibility and accountability to my actions, and there are consequences for that. And I also appreciate that I have someone who can give me that other perspective to help me figure out the situation as a whole. Yes. So like in the same boat, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so good at therapy. I'm just like doing everything right. But I've kind of gotten over that. And now we're talking about different things. And I'm understanding that, okay, you're not always going to be the winner, like coming out feeling like a champ. But that's okay,
Right.
So, yeah.
No, exactly. So I say all that to say that, I missed my appointment this week, but I missed it in both meetings. You know what I mean? Like I missed it. Like, I wish I had it, but also I missed it. Like it's not going to be until next week. So.
But it's on the books, right?
But it's on the books. It is.
Talk to her soon.
And we are, yes, and we are going to chat soon. Good. Yeah. And that even of itself, I think I've said that before, does bring me some type of like calm and, just a little bit more calm and stillness within myself to think about, yes, I will eventually get to a point where I can chat about this and we can discuss all the things that are, going through my head. So but not necessarily a particularly great week. But I'm okay with that, like moving on.
Yeah. Such is life. It's not all like rainbows and unicorns. No. Unfortunately. But that's okay.
It is okay.
We're here. You guys are here. We're going to talk about something fun, hopefully.
I know. So we're talking about anxiety. No, I'm just kidding.
Right. Yeah, no, get your anxiety blanket, a cup of tea, and sit down because it's going to get real heavy here.
No, we wouldn't do that to you yet. We'll do it eventually. But no, our topic for today is dating apps. Ooh. Yeah. So I'm really excited because I feel like dating apps, among other topics, but I do feel like dating apps in particular have been a very big conversation around like the validity of them over the past few years, because I think that people realize, and not just people that I know, but just conversation that I've seen online as well, that you have got to give everything a fair shot, right? If you are going to look for a partner, or if you're just going to look for, a casual hookup, there are many ways to go about that these days. And of course, social media is going to be one of the top ways, because we spend so much time going through our social media. Right. And I was actually just talking with my students about this, not about dating apps, but I was talking about the use of social media and just how, of course, it shapes a lot of the things that we do, because anything that you spend a lot of time is now a habit. And that's going to become part of what shapes your character, right? And the things that you do and how that plays out in your life. And so I was really excited to get into this conversation. Also, too, being that I met my partner on a dating app, and I feel like that was the one time where I was actually the most honest on dating apps. I will admit that I was definitely a person that tried to, curate the perfect profile to think that I was like trying to catch the perfect person. But the reality is that if you're looking for perfect, you're going to be woefully let down.
Right.
And honestly, I think you need to kind of go through that letdown process of like, wait, like my perfect pictures of when I go to weddings and like am out doing like the perfect things don't match up with my life of like sitting in bed on Saturdays. Why isn't this working?
Right. It's so true. It's like those things you see where it's like someone's social media feed is not their life.
Right.
It's curated to look great, and it usually does, and they probably do cool things, but that's not their 24/7 life.
Yes, exactly. And that's okay. Your 24/7 life should be filled with both exciting and, mundane activities. And hopefully there's a balance of them. And if you don't feel like you have that balance, of course, find that. If you want more adventure in your life, find that, right? There's nothing wrong with seeking out people that can be that way, but you also do just have to be realistic with yourself and your expectations for dating apps or anything of the sort. And so let's just dive in. When I first started looking into the research, of course, as always, I want to start with a little bit of history. Just how did we get to the point where we are now, right? Like what were the early versions of Tinder? You know what I mean? And so it was really fun. So basically my first question was just where and why? Like, where did the first versions of dating apps come from and why? Why did people want to do this version where it was like web-based, basically, right?
Okay, because I was thinking when you said history, I'm like, okay, maybe like personal ads. Like I know people used to put out like personal ads in like newspapers and
okay.
So, but I don't know how far back we're going because we are talking about apps specifically. So so we need to still be in the internet era.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And that's a really good point because one of the early versions, which I will get to, or the early systems, was by mail-in. It was like a mail-in questionnaire that they like then plugged into like their their app, basically, or their software. At the time, it wasn't an app, but they plugged it into their software and like tried to match people that way. But yes, dating in general and finding partners, has like way earlier, origins, but we won't get into that today. But so where and why for dating apps specifically. So using some type of web-based platform to find a significant other or to find like-minded people, because all of these versions weren't always used just for romantic. It could be used for casual, romantic, and just finding like-minded people. Mm-hmm. So the first app version or the first system or web-based, or actually this was a computer-based matchmaking service, was in 1965. I am focusing in the US. I'm sure that there are others out there. But if you know anything about the US, we got enough shit going on here. I'm sorry. I don't, we are not very cultured when it comes to learning about other countries. And neither are our Google searches. So in 1965, actually, there were two Harvard students. They created they were males. I mean, let's just, put that out there. They were basically the only ones allowed to go to school at that time. No, I'm just kidding. But like, it was a large number. But anyways, two Harvard students, male students, created the first computer-based matchmaking system. And it was a service in the US. It was around the end of like the Vietnam War. And so basically dating prospects were up because for the first time, there was a large amount of like widows and just people coming back from wars, like actually getting divorces for the first time. and or impregnating people while they were overseas. Like it was just a lot of, I mean, now what we deem normal, right? Having babies with people that you aren't married with, or just having romantic, romantic relations with people out in the open. It wasn't as taboo. So this was kind of the coming of like the 60s, right? The hippies, and just really being more free with like who you love and like what that looks like, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, dating prospects were up, and in reality, this computer-based matchmaking service that they created was still very geared toward like finding the cookie cutter family, because it was still deemed as like, if you're going to find someone, it should be for the long term, right? And so even their system in itself was still very geared towards finding someone that wanted to start a family. However, as we know with all apps, or if you've ever been on the internet ever, it can be used for a multitude of things. So this was also a way that people ended up like networking, moving to different places throughout the country, and just finding out about different places in the US that they had maybe never ventured to, right? Because travel wasn't as prevalent.
Right.
So that was in 1965, but they didn't have like the name for it. This was just the first computer-based matchmaking service. That's all they called it.
Okay.
So that was 65. But then in 1966 in Denver, Colorado, Operation Match was created, which was another web-based dating, but it was through mail. So this was a mail-in 75-question survey, just all about, the things that you may or may not want. I couldn't actually find the survey. I would have really liked to see like the questions that were on there.
I wonder.
I know. Maybe I'll follow up. I didn't really have all the time. Of course, procrastination is a bitch. So if I would have done it earlier, maybe I could have found it. But I couldn't find like an easy printout of it.
Right.
But anyways, this was actually, this was the first paid service. So this was $3. Inflation is such a fucking bitch. It's ridiculous. But it was a $3 mail-in survey. And basically when you sent it in, they plugged it into their Operation Match web-based survey, and then they sent you matches through the mail. So this was also very much, connected to like pen pals. Obviously, if you had a phone at the time, like if your house did actually have a landline, you could call each other and then like kind of move on from there.
Okay.
But this was the first, paid service that actually took into account like many different things, not just necessarily what you're looking for, but like more about you as the person, right? So 75 questions, that's a little bit more in depth. And it was actually estimated that 90,000 people were using this service. And so it was pretty big, especially considering for the time.
Right.
But I also think it's kind of funny because the numbers were given by the founders themselves, which happen to also be two males. And so I'm just like, the male ego tends to, over exaggerate the girth, the size of, this project. But I'm sure it was popular, right? I mean, This is like one of the first ways that you can, again, get to know people outside of your immediate town or city or whatever. So
right. Well, if we think about how popular apps are now, then I would assume these earlier forms were probably or had just as much interest.
I was comparing to today's estimates of Tinder, which there's around like 50 million people. And this was from a survey taken from Tinder in 2018. So, but if you think about like the prevalence of, access to, to a computer or things like that, like obviously the scale is not the same. However, 90,000 just in general is a lot of people to choose this, especially because it was something that was paid, right? $3. Again, I'm not, a mathematician or economist or anything like that, but $3 back then was probably close to like maybe like 50-ish to $60 now, something like that. I don't know. I know it was a lot though.
I know. Yeah. Get out your inflation calculators, people. $3 in 1966.
Yeah. What is that? What is that now? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's more than 3.
It's yeah, exactly. So it's more than I paid. Yeah. So then we get to 1990, which there were some other web-based ones similar that were happening, but 1990 was the start of Match.com. That's when Match.com was first started. And that actually led to the first spike of interracial marriages in 1995.
Oh.
So this totally makes sense, right? Because it's basically building gradually that people from different areas are finally coming together. Also, we're talking post civil rights, right? So there's a lot of different factors to why as to why people from different parts of the country are now feeling more comfortable getting together.
Right.
But the biggest thing about a lot of these was that although there were questions that were trying to be like masked in preference, but really were just like discriminatory acts against like people of color, gay people. Again, this was still very geared towards like that cookie cutter family. You know, there was much more preference given to the white applicants rather than any other applicants. And there was no even mention of like any trans or non-binary community, which of course we know people existed all throughout history. However, when you're talking about things that are created, especially in Harvard or in Denver, Colorado, we're still talking about a very whitewashed, misogynistic,
heteronormative,
heteronormative,
yes.
right? Exactly, cis perspective.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that people weren't connecting. It's just that those weren't the statistics they were focused on, because again, they were still able to basically like, weed out the applicants that didn't fit their algorithm, basically.
Right.
So erasure of people without the accountability, right? It's just like, oh, you just didn't like come up on our algorithm, but it's like, well, yeah, because your algorithm only accounts for like these types of people.
Right.
So so yeah, algorithms are made by people as well. You can make a racist algorithm. That's a thing. So anyways, but yeah, I thought that was really interesting that it led to the first spike of interracial marriages. Then I actually did have to look up separately, because just like we know with all of research, like I can look up one thing like dating app history, and then I can look up dating app history for Black people, and I will get a literally completely separate list of, completely separate information, like literally, and it's not as if her list said by default that this was a list of, apps that white people used. It was just like, but there were like discriminatory acts, and like a lot of people didn't get hooked up besides white people. And it was just like, okay, that's not by coincidence, but okay.
Right.
So then we get into 1999, and blackplanet.com was created. And so this was not included in the article that I brought up. By the way, we will always have like the links and everything for more information if you're interested in any of these articles. But I did have to look up separately, like, dating apps for Black people, throughout history.
Right.
So the first very impactful one was blackplanet.com in 1999. And it was launched by a Benjamin Sun, who also used this for local job postings as well. So this was very much so like, you could meet other Black professionals, because again, we're still talking about, even though it was the 90s and it seems like it wasn't that long ago, there was still a lot of prejudice, a lot of discriminatory acts within the workplace. So this was actually a way that, Black people and people of color could meet outside of, the very white dominant spaces, and also let people know of opportunities, right? Because that's the thing, if you think about, trying to start, a romantic situation with someone, it also depends on your economic status, right? Like, where do you live? If we actually end up getting together, can we actually live in the same area, right? Like, am I going to be able to support myself there? Or what does that look like, right?
Right.
So yeah, so Benjamin Sun, he also created, though I had not heard of these, Asian Avenue and migente.com. So obviously Asian Avenue was for Asian people and predominantly, right? Like, it doesn't mean that every single person is on there, but it was just, again, these platforms had to be created because the general, quote unquote, normal, societal standard of like Match.com was predominantly and given preference to white people. So these were created as a place for, Black, Asian, or Latinx people to meet as well. Or just people who were okay with that. I mean, literally, you know what I mean? It's like, you want some like Asian flavor, it's like the white guy's gonna go to like Asian Avenue, and it's like, again, that's fine. You should be able to keep your preferences open, but it's kind of ridiculous that you literally have to like go to a separate site, right?
Right. I mean, it's great that they exist, because it sounds like he was building a whole community. It wasn't just for dating.
Right.
But you're right. Like, it's so backwards on.
Yeah. But and that's the thing, like, I was looking up other articles. I won't get too much into it, but I was looking up other articles about the racist algorithms within dating profiles and how people have felt like, their algorithm and the amount of matches did not match like their white counterparts or like their cis counterparts, things like that. because most apps, not all, but most apps do now have an option for like same-sex dating. But even within that, right, like it could be same-sex dating, or it could still be a hetero relationship, but trans people might not want to be just looped in with like women, because that could just mean cis women, right? You don't know what the preference is given to, right? And if there's no option for trans or non-binary folk, where do they fall into, right? Because what are people expecting when they go on this app and say, I am looking for women, I am looking for men, you know, like what are you, is it totally inclusive, right? And I will tell you no, because a lot of people have, you know, shared their experiences online about how it wasn't totally inclusive, right? And it was very exclusatory in some ways. But anyways, it was really interesting. And I think that really shows that, like, not only with the spike of interracial marriages, but also too, these other platforms being created, that shows that there was a need for and a niche for dating apps, web-based, people really enjoying the fact that they could meet people from their home, maybe from even the safety of their home, and then deciding on whether or not they want to go through with it. Yeah. So, and then also I just liked this statistic that was, it says 70% of same-sex relationships do start online. Now they don't really get into, again, if this is like cis or hetero, you know, like, or I'm sorry, if it was like a cis relationship, they don't really say that, but I'm going to assume that when they say same-sex relationships, this is just like, you know, before, I would say like maybe early thousands to like 2010, somewhere around there. We didn't even really use like LGBTQIA plus. Well, it was like LGBTQ then, right? But really, most people just said gay. It was like gay or straight, you know, like, so gay people were, you know, had platforms created, like Grindr came around in 2009, but it even said in the article, this was the sexual revolution within the gay community, but it doesn't say queer community, right? It says gay community. So we're still talking about like cis gay people, if that makes sense, right? Right. So, you know, but take everything with a grain of salt. I mean, it doesn't mean that there were nobody else on there. It's just that, again, what you're going to find as far as like the history of it is still going to be very geared towards what was appropriate or, you know, deemed societally appropriate at the time. Right. Yeah, so that was really cool. Then, which I thought it was funny. So Grindr was launched in 2009, and Grindr was the first app to use geolocation. So to actually be able to find the person. Which I just find, if that isn't the most like efficiently gay thing that you could say, you know, like the gays are just like, we need to know, like time's a ticking. We need to know where you are.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Grindr is like a whole nother level.
It really is. No, exactly. It just completely changed the game with like dating apps. Basically everything that we know as far, or use as far as like recent dating apps and like the more popular current ones, came from Grindr, because like MySpace came around in 2003. That was also, it's not a dating app, but it was very heavily used for dating. This was also recognized as I found this like on an article about safe places for Black people to date. And MySpace was up there because, again, right, it wasn't made for dating, but anyone can make a MySpace profile and anyone has access to finding other profiles. So there's no like, I mean, there's still algorithms, but there's no like algorithm that says like, you won't come up in people's feeds because you are Black or because you are Latino or whatever, right? Like you can still be in people's feeds. So MySpace was a viable place. Also, Okcupid was in 2004. And this was actually one of the first current free dating apps. So, or I'm sorry, websites. So it was free and it still is free. Okcupid is free. I mean, that's what, according to this article, it said that they maintained it being free the entire time. And this was another safe space for different types of people. So it wasn't geared toward one specific thing. It also wasn't geared toward necessarily families. It was just like Okcupid, like attraction, right? Like just more focused on getting people together and romantically involved. So so then just to wrap this up, Facebook was also launched in 2004 by Harvard students, as we know. If you haven't seen The Social Network, it's a really funny movie. Also, it gives you a lot into the psyche of young white men with so much entitlement. He literally created this entire website because he was just like, I need to like be accepted by more women.
Yeah,
I don't
why
think he
doesn't she
was,
like
by the
me?
way. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, they have to give the movie more, more robust storyline. Who knows? But
Who knows? But like
juicy for the
seeing Mark
movie.
Zuckerberg now, he was probably worse.
Oh, okay. I thought you were
Yeah.
going the other way. I thought you were like,
No.
"You're so boring." But okay.
No. Well, I
They
mean,
played
yeah,
it
he is
down.
boring. Yeah, they played
You're
him
saying
down.
They played it down. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think that what's the actor's name that played him?
Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah, Jesse Eisenberg. I will give him his credit. He did a very good job of playing, the very neurotic Harvard student that just wanted a girl to
Right.
like him. But Mark Zuckerberg is much more deadpan, but he was probably that much more upset. He had that much less to work with. So, yeah, that's my take.
Okay, hot take.
Eat it. Yeah. Hot take.
Eat it. Oh my god.
So anyways, yeah, so in 2004, Facebook came around. Obviously, again, it was started, quote unquote, to be a lot more professional, right? For professionals to meet. However, still a very viable space to, meet people romantically or otherwise. And then we have like before 2010, we also have Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn, right? So all have ties to making romantic connections as well, but don't necessarily have the stats for that because they weren't created for that reason. But this was just like the dawn of people meeting on many different platforms and being able to, kind of decide for themselves whether they wanted to use this for networking or just, or just enjoyment or romantic or all of the above.
Or all the above. Yeah. Everyone slid into a DM at least once, I would say.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you're gonna like slide into anything else, but you can slide into the DM.
Right. It's a start. Yeah. It doesn't mean it's going anywhere. But everyone's done it.
No. Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Even though you try to mask it and like, oh, I really like your truck tires.
I know. Oh, I saw you were in Paris 3 years ago. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you only know that I saw this because I accidentally liked it at 3 a.m. in the morning.
Oh, yeah. You have to send like the follow-up message to like cover your, sorry. I wasn't creeping on your page for 2 hours. I was, I have no excuse.
Yeah, sorry. I'm in New Zealand. It's actually not 3 a.m. It's the next day. It's normal hours. How are you doing now?
Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So
it's a great lead in.
So anyway, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so obviously then we get to more recent years. So, 2012 was when Tinder launched, which really after Tinder launched, right? Because before that it was Grindr, which was created for gay people, but 2012 kind of changed the game for just general dating, right? Which pretty much means cishet finally got the memo that, hey, people like to find romantic hookups and situationships all over. And so if you could just get on it, we're behind the game, of course. Right. And the rest after that is really history. I mean, then we have like so many other apps, which I will bring up a little bit about later. But the reality is that like, I just wanted to mention some stats from Tinder. So
I did not know Tinder has been around since 2012.
Yeah, that's crazy, right?
Kind of crazy.
I'm sure it was like very beta. I mean, like beta testing.
Okay, that's true.
But the reality is that even apps like that, they had to kind of improve what they needed about it, right? Like even Grindr, when it was first created, they did use geolocation, but it wasn't like a perfect science, right? It wasn't as updated. I think it could only update like a few times, like a week or a day or something like that. Obviously, depending on like your Wi-Fi. You have to think about that, right? Wi-Fi and things like that have come so far. So it's really not like we were just all walking around with like, smartphones. It's like, I only have, 2 gigabytes of not even 2 gigabytes, but that also had a lot to do with why those apps just really didn't mean anything to us, because apps just weren't that popular yet. Because even I made a note, Grindr in 2009 actually came out as the same year along with the iPhone 3G. So it was the first app to use geolocation, and it was like on the iPhone 3G. So if you even remember what the iPhone 3 looks like,
I can't even picture it.
Yeah.
But
I don't think I got one until like, yeah.
Like,
use your imagination.
Yeah. Old school.
Very old school. Yeah, exactly. You're like playing Snake on one, and then you're like, oh, I gotta exit because I need to see who I'm gonna hook up with tonight.
Right. I just imagine it like when you're watching a movie from like the 80s and there's a computer and it's just that green text on the screen. Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't have any photos. There's nothing like
Yeah, no, exactly. Which is interesting too. I would have liked, I mean, I couldn't do a deep dive on everything, obviously, but I would like to know, what were was it just like, like age, sex, location kind of thing? Like it was just like, I'm
ASL,
32.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. ASL, I'm 32. I am a male and I'm right down the street.
Right.
Good. That works for me. I'll be there.
Right. The text box is only like 10 characters.
Yeah.
Like you got to keep it real short. Like,
yeah,
that
exactly.
makes sense because Grindr actually has like so many acronyms.
Yes.
Many acronyms. I
So
don't
true.
know half of them, but there are so many. That
That's
actually
true.
makes a lot of sense. We should figure out if that's why.
I know, right? Exactly. Yeah, we'll have to bring a Grindr expert on here, which is basically any of our gay friends that we know. And they'll tell us, where are the origins? Can you ask like can you ask like one of your daddies on here, like when he first downloaded this? All the sugar daddies were sugar babies then, or they were just always sugar daddies because they're probably trust fund kids anyway. Fuck them. Anyways, but so just to give you some stats on Tinder, so there have been 50 million Tinder users, and I don't know if this number, I'm sure it's like ever growing, right? But this was from 2018. But basically, at this time, there were 50 million Tinder users. There were 26 million daily matches, and there were 20 billion matches since 2012. So this is a big number, right? Like these are a lot of matches, but again, a match is as easy as a swipe. So like, let's not get crazy. Their stats are a little bit skewed, like they really should just cut out any matches made between the hours of like 1 a.m. to 6 a.m. They just shouldn't be counted in the statistics. Those weren't real.
Right. And matches doesn't mean like marriages. That just means, like you said, just a swipe. Like,
just a swipe, exactly. It's a very simple act that we've all fallen victim to. You're like, oh, maybe I'll give him a try, and you're like, no, I'm not. I'm never gonna give that guy a try. I don't know why I did that.
You're like, I like his dog. That's why. He's got a cute like little Labrador. Aww,
right.
Like.
Yeah. Come to find out, it died 3 years ago. He's just been using the same picture. So
it's his friends.
Yeah. Oh, there was a lot of it.
Yeah, someone just had it like outside the coffee shop and he like was walking by.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the guy. Yeah. Yeah, the guy posing in front of the really nice car. Like, that's not your Lamborghini, dude. And that's not your dog either. Like, who are you? Who are you outside of these things?
Who are you? Yeah, catfisher for sure.
I mean, it had to start somewhere. Ooh, that will be an episode. Catfishing. That's a good episode.
I just kept thinking of catfishing when you were like telling the history, like into MySpace and a Facebook, and I'm like, and that's when catfishing started, and everyone was making fake profiles and creeping on other people, and the internet, man.
The internet. It's a fucked up place, but listen to our podcast.
Yeah. We're on it.
Yeah, I know. Here we are, adding to it, fuel to the fire. But anyways, so I liked that because this is the thing. I didn't want to get too hung up on statistics because like I did find one about like marriages. It was in the same article that I found a lot of the information, but basically it was like, it says about marriages that 25% of married couples meet online. And this is in the US as of in 2017. But 10% of affairs also begin online. And 40% of online affairs turn into in-person affairs. So this is really interesting because the marriage statistics are kind of skewed because it's like, yes, of course, if you met online, like I don't know if you know, but like if you delete your profile and you have like connections that you've already talked to, Bumble and like Hinge, I know for sure those two, they'll like ask you before you delete it, like, oh, did you actually end up talking to so-and-so? Did you go on a first date? Like, do you see it going with him more? Like they kind of try to follow up with you, right? I'm sure for their stats as well.
Right.
which I was very anti. I was like, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to like be another notch on your belt, you know? I had serious dating issues, obviously. I'm like, ugh.
Right. You're mad at the apps. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I hate men and dating apps.
Right.
Yeah, but I don't know. But seriously though, like the stats are kind of interesting when it comes to the fact that like, well, there's not that many married couples. However, the ones having affairs, we know all about them. I'm just like, who's telling you? Like, who's like logging out and they're like, by the way, before you leave, are you married? Did you cheat on married person? Like, how would you know?
Maybe they have researchers on the back end, like looking at these people's Instagrams, being like,
Oh.
oh, Joe actually has 2 kids and a wife, but he's swiping right on, you know, Lisa and Julie and whoever else. And now we can see that they're chatting. Oh, he just sent a dick pic. Oh, she actually accepted it. Okay, she's into it, I guess. So she's going for it. But so maybe this is really like their backroom marketing.
Ooh.
You know, this is really like fueling to their growth. They're like, obviously we're not going to advertise this, but you know, it's part of our business. So
right. Yeah, it's good to know. There's a huge market for it apparently, so they're doing great.
That's true though. I mean, you're worried about like your man going to the club when it's like, no, bitch, it doesn't matter. Does he have an iPhone? Well, guess what? It's out there.
Yeah, exactly. Dicks have been sent. Okay, that's all I'm saying. They're out there.
Yeah.
Lots of dick pics. Man, that's fucking dark. I mean, to me, the reason why I say this is because obviously, so yeah, I'm a millennial. I've been through the shame and horror of going through the apps and swiping until you can't swipe anymore. It's like masturbating, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, I've done it 3 times today. Like I can't swipe anymore. It's been so many hours.
I can't swipe anymore. Yeah. I have other things to do today. I have laundry. Yeah.
Always laundry. That's literally the only thing.
Though. You can tell when they give you like the A team and then you're still swiping. They're like, this bitch is still on. It's been an hour. Okay. Then you get the B team and you're like, these guys like aren't as good as the other guys. Yeah. You know, you start, it's more lefts than rights at this point. And then like 2 hours in, you're like, what the fuck?
That's so true. Oh my gosh. If you are on a dating app longer than like a good 30 minutes, you've gotten the best of the best. You've seen what there is to get out there. All the rest are just like, I'm sorry, but they're the bottom dwellers. They're the 3 a.m. at the end of the night. Club is about to close and they are at the bar waiting to see who is going to go home. Like, and they'll probably be at the bars too. I mean, you know, they're keeping all their options open.
They're doubling down. They're trying to pick up so-and-so at the bar, but they're also checking their phone in case, you know, booty call Sally is like, hi there, which is my line that I used to say when I would go on the apps. I would be like, hi there. So I know.
Yeah, Morgan talks like an AOL messenger bot. She's like, hi there. You've got mail.
What was your line?
You want to fuck?
Mine's just a little more subtle. I meant the same thing.
Right, yeah, exactly. She just put a winky face next to it. And so he's like, oh. Oh my God, we know each other way too freaking well. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
No, I'd put some version of, you know, the hey, like, hey, I'd put some version of that. Honestly, I was never really good at not good at it, but I was never really hooking up too much from the apps because I was still going out a lot. Like, you know, you were using the apps a lot when you were in a different state. So it was a little bit different because you know what I mean? Like you were, oh wait, no, we had apps. Did we have apps in college? Were we using apps in college?
Not really.
I had a BlackBerry until like 2016.
True. I'm like trying to think, like, I don't.
Yeah, you got your first iPhone.
I know.
Yeah.
I was walking around with my iPod and my cell phone like separately, like looking like an idiot. Had my NV2, just like flipping it up, like.
Oh my gosh.
Got to go to class, then lecture.
Yeah.
Like, I'm 21 years old. Like, we've really come a long way since then.
We have come a long way. That's so funny. Yeah. I don't think, I can't remember the first time I downloaded an app. I know that it was probably prompted by none other than Jose, the one that will always recur on this show. But I can't remember the first one I downloaded. It actually wasn't Tinder for me. I think the first one I downloaded was actually Bumble. And then I tried Tinder. which hold on, we'll get into
You know
that in a
what?
second. Yeah.
Okay. So I have a memory of a friend using the app while we were still living in Santa Barbara. So we had to have been on them then
Okay.
because I remember her talking to someone on it and I was like, oh, I want to get on there.
Oh,
And I ended up chatting with this
interesting.
like chef for like, I don't know, 2 hours.
Okay.
I didn't meet him. It wasn't like a hi there, winky face. It was just like, I don't know what this is. I'm just like, playing around here. But I do remember that being when we were still in Santa Barbara. So that was in college days.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, because
It might have been Tinder. I don't know if you had it, but I did.
No, I definitely didn't. Because I was like very avoidant of the apps. I was just like, I don't think this is my thing. Which honestly, it wasn't my thing for a long time. Even when I thought that it was, it still wasn't. It took me a while to get to like what I actually know to be kind of helpful on using those apps, and we will get to that.
Yeah.
But I mean, we used to use things like, again, we are talking about dating apps, but we used to use like chat roulette and like guys that we like actually ended up like we not necessarily met all of them, but some of them were from Santa Barbara. Like we met guys on there that like were like in the area and stuff like that. So there were other ways of using the internet to find people, right? And to like meet people. But in that way, I still feel I was very much more like traditional hookup where like we would go out and I would like find somebody to hook up with that way. So I was never prone to using the phone just because like we were still, I was still very much so in my going out phase, like that deep in like, yeah, let's go out every night and find someone. We don't have to get into that. That's body count. That's for another episode. But anyways, point being, yeah, it took me a while to understand like, oh, this could actually be a viable way of meeting people, especially when you're in new areas. I do think that's the biggest thing. After we moved apart, I still stayed relatively close to like where we kind of grew up. So I knew, where to go out. Me and Jose would still go out together, or any other friends that I knew would still go out. Whereas moving to a new place, I think totally makes sense for dating apps because you don't know people. Even if you just want to find friends to hang out with, it's like you're going to be much more prone to go online. Yeah.
Right. That's fair.
Right. And that actually brings me to the next topic, which is why are they so popular and what makes them so attractive? And so this is the thing. I found like some research on it. And obviously there's like so much out there. But I think one of the biggest things for me is that dating apps are something that they're different for everyone kind of individually, right? Because we're different people. We're all different. And so the reasons that we get on there might be somewhat similar, but the way that we use them and what attracts us to them is going to kind of be a little bit personal. I don't know if that makes sense, but basically I kind of wrote down these 3 things, which is what kind of came to mind for me and what I kind of wanted to focus on a little bit, was that 1, the idea of curating yourself or being able to curate the public perception of you is the most attractive for sure. Also, expectations versus reality. I do think that a lot of times, especially with social media in general, we like to think of the expectations versus what it's really going to like be like. And so I think that social media in general is very attractive in that way because it's mesmerizing because you get to see what you want. If you want to only see what things could look like in the best of, in the best of terms, you can do that. You don't have to have any real sense of real reality in your social media feed, right? And then also too, I think dating apps are very popular and attractive because you can use them for serious dating versus casual, and you can kind of ride that line constantly, right? So if you want to just hook up tonight, but you also just want to chat with somebody because you do want a long-term relationship in the future, you can kind of do both at the same time. You don't have to, obviously, but I do think that there's this sense of like, there's not real like scarcity involved, right?
Right.
There's always going to be new swipes, right? I think, is it Bumble that like tells you like you're out of swipes? I think there's like a limit. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But that's true. And I always I have been on Hinge, I've been on Tinder, I've been on Bumble. I think that's it. I think I tried Coffee Meets Bagel before, but that one's kind of weird. You have to collect coffee beans and I don't know.
Yeah. I know.
But I think there are other ones that just seem a little more serious. And I was like, okay, I'm not like looking for a husband. I'm just looking for someone to hang out with. So I never did like Match.com or Okcupid. What's another like? Oh, eHarmony.
eHarmony, yeah. I'll get to those, right?
Yeah, those ones felt like, okay, these people are like looking to like, shack up like real quick. And I was like, I'm not there. I'm not that person. So I kept it on the casual app side.
Yeah. No, that's very true. That's literally one of the next thing I wrote is about like the age divide. It's also enticing because depending on, where you fall, you might, even though you're an older person, you might want to meet people that are young. So that the younger people are going to go on apps. Yeah. Like Tinder, Bumble, Grindr, all of these things. Whereas maybe if you are ready to get married, or if you're looking for something very specific, you can go on these still website-based ones like, eHarmony.com, Zoosk.com, Elite Singles, Christian Mingle. Like these are all very Our time, exactly.
Farmers only.
Farmers only. Yeah, I mean, you could just say it like conservatives only, racists only, like whatever you want to call it.
There's a Jewish one as well.
Oh yeah, J-Date. That was another very popular one. Exactly, but the web-based ones are still very much so geared toward the older generations. Yeah. Mainly because again, right, apps are on your phone, they're very quick, easy, and this is what we use as our main form of communication constantly. Yeah. I cannot tell you how many times older people complain to me about, can you just fix this? And I'm like, first of all, everyone that's a millennial is not just an IT person, like by default. Like I didn't take any IT engineering classes. I don't just know how to fix your phone. I can fix an app, whatever.
I was going to say, but you probably know how to do it. Let's be real. Like you probably do know.
True, but
because if
not
shit
everything.
Messed up on your iPhone, you would be on there for an hour trying to, go to the settings or do whatever you need to do to get it to work again.
True, yeah. So. I guess old people just kind of annoy me. That's really what it is.
It's not the technology.
It's just them. It's okay. I'll probably get on my nerves at that age. I mean, I already get on my own nerves at this age. So
same.
It's gotta only get worse.
It's downhill from here.
Yeah. So I'm in therapy. But yeah, so just to kind of compare, so like the most popular web-based ones, like I said, eHarmony, Zoosk, J-Date was on there, Elite Singles, and Christian Mingle. And then you have the age divide for like the youngers, basically millennials and younger, Tinder, Grindr, Bumble, Hinge, and Coffee Meets Bagel. So yeah, I did try Coffee Meets Bagel. I didn't love it either. It just wasn't like the pool of people that I don't remember like the beans. I do kind of remotely remember something like that, but I just remember a coworker had suggested it and I was just like, oh yeah, this isn't for me.
Okay, I was wondering how I found that, and I think it's because your coworker suggested it to you.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, but that's how she found her boyfriend, right?
Yeah, and they're still together. Yeah, and they're still together. And that's the thing too. I also think it was because again, right, like geolocation is a huge thing. And I think it was also where I was at the time. I was working in Orange County, which if you know anything about Orange County, we're not dating for a reason. It's probably because I can't afford it. I do remember I met one guy that went to Orange County Community College, OCC. And he was a really nice guy. I think I told you about this. I was 24 at the time, and he said he was 24 at the time. And then I met him and he was 18. He had just started college. And I was like, why did you lie about your age? And he was like, oh, like I knew you probably wouldn't want to hang out with me. And I was like, yeah, you're right. And he was like, yeah, so can you like he was like, oh, do you want to like go to a bonfire? Like you can stop by my place and then we can go to a bonfire. And I was like, oh, okay, that sounds cool. And he was like, yeah. So when I get there, I realized that I was going to have to drive him. And at that moment, I realized, did you just not want to pay for an Uber? Like,
didn't he make you park the car like in a spot that was like, and you were like hesitant to park the car there? And he's like, no, it's fine. But then he went back down and put a note on your car.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. You remember all these very good details. I clearly just blocked out of my mind. Yes. Because he was just like, no, it's fine. And I was like, this is such a young thing. I used to get parking tickets too at 18 years old because I just had no sense of anything. dude,
Right.
I don't need to park here. It's also not that serious. And you're 18 now. And I
Yeah.
realize that you are so 18 in this moment.
Mm.
He had a really nice apartment though, which again, right? If you live in OC, like you have to be able to afford it. I don't know how. He wasn't a stripper. I mean, he probably could have been a stripper, but whatever.
Yeah.
Point being,
Benefit of the doubt, he might have been.
he might. Hey, you know what? I'll give him that. You at OCC, you OCC guy that lied about your age. First of all, like annoying. You could be a stripper if you want to be a stripper. Okay,
Yeah.
Sky's the limit. Literally, you're still like 22. But anyways, yeah, I think that was honestly the only date that I went on off of that app, and I was just like, yeah, I can't do this. I just like blamed it on the app. I was like, no.
I don't think I ever met up with anyone from that.
Yeah.
From Coffee Meets Bagel specifically.
Were you already in Arizona? I can't remember.
Yes, I believe so.
Oh, okay. But I was just wondering because again, yeah, just your surroundings, obviously it depends. That one was pretty big in the OC area, so I don't really know. I'm sure, like there's pockets, right, where it's going to be more populated and more saturated. And that was definitely pretty saturated in that area. I did have Tinder. I had Tinder for a whole of 10 minutes and I saw 2 coworkers on there within those 10 minutes. And I literally deleted it the same day. I was like, this is way too close to home. I mean, obviously geolocation, but I was just like, these were the matches immediately. They were like, oh yeah, you work here. So do they. Get together. I was just like, yeah, I've done that before. I don't need an app to do that. I've hooked up with coworkers and regretted it.
I can do that all on my own.
Right. Yeah.
For nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't need a digital paper trail letting me know how bad of an idea that was. But yeah, I also used Bumble and I used Hinge. Mm-hmm. I used Bumble the most. Bumble, I think I like downloaded and deleted like a whole of like 5 times. Like I you know what I mean? Like I kept kind of going back to it, which also I think I thought it was like, even though in my mind I'm like, I'm over this. Like I'm going to go meet someone at the bar. I think in reality, I thought it was like maybe the app's broken. Like maybe if I delete it and come back in like 3 months, like, so the pics will be better. You know what I mean? The swipes will get better. I need to like turn it off and turn it on, Right.
IT yourself.
Yeah. Right.
Situation. And yeah.
If you're a millennial, you know the struggle. You got to turn it off and turn it on. And that's probably the problem. It usually is.
Yeah.
I was like, the Apple update, I'll come back. I'll find somebody.
Right.
But which one would you say is not necessarily your favorite, because that's like social media, right? Like what's your favorite social media app? But what would you say is the most like that you feel the most, I don't know if comfortable is the right word. Like which is the most that you feel, or which app do you feel most comfortable using?
So I think Tinder kind of took a turn, right? Like Tinder is mainly for hooking up. Like I don't know, and I haven't been on apps in a while, so I'm not sure. I could be off base. Okay. But from my experience, Tinder kind of took a turn for just like the hookup side of things. Right. So, and that's not saying I didn't use the other apps for hooking up, but I wasn't on Hinge that much. I just don't really know if I'm a dating app person, and I don't know if that's an excuse. Maybe I'm not trying hard enough. But I don't think my glowing personality just shines when I'm like texting a stranger. Okay. I'm being sarcastic if anyone is picking that up. Maybe I'm just lazy as fuck and I don't want to like think of something witty to say. Like, I know you got to put in the work. And again, I am taking accountability that I don't want to do that. So.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I'm not making excuses. I'm telling you I don't want to.
Right. So I think I've probably used Bumble the most. Like if I had to say I liked one, I liked that Bumble when it came out. It was like very much about like the woman having more control of the conversation. Right. They have to initiate the conversation, which is nice when you like match with someone and then it's just like not an immediate dick pic.
Right.
So I get where they're coming from.
Right.
So I think I've probably used Bumble the most. What about you?
So yes, like I said, definitely the most in terms of over the years, because I didn't actually end up using Hinge for that long before I met my current partner. So definitely Bumble. I liked Bumble for that reason as well. But I do remember that I started it in like towards the end of my undergrad, I had Bumble. but I was also looking for a sugar daddy at the time. So I also used this website. What was that website?
Seeking arrangements.
Yes. Oh my God. Seeking arrangements. Yes. I was looking for a sugar daddy. Had you tried it?
I haven't been on it, but you and I have talked about this.
So okay. I was like, I'm sure I told you. Right. Yeah. So I tried it. And there were a few guys that like did want to meet up, and I just could never go through with it. Like, you know, good on you if you could, because get that fucking money. Like, somebody needs to spend it. They're gonna die in like a year. But
she really doesn't like old people, guys.
Yeah,
just kidding.
I mean, they're okay. I just wish they would stop running our government and our really important systems. But anyways, yeah, I tried to use that. So I was like kind of trying to juggle between like, do I want to be like a kept woman, or do like I actually want to find somebody that I have to like build with, you know? And when you're in like the last years of your undergrad, like those like loans are coming in real high.
Oh my God. Yeah. Your debt is stacking up and you're like, where is someone who can take care of me? Yeah. I've had those moments too. I mean, yeah.
I just needed, you know, senile Superman to come and swoop me up for my debt and put me up in a penthouse somewhere. That was very much so where my head was at. Me and my friend that I went to college with, we were both like kind of trying to do it together. And every time we would like actually meet somebody that was like serious. Like I had a guy that was like, look, like I'll give you this allowance. Like you can come to my house. I'll send you like the Uber, like, but you can set it up. Like you don't have to tell me where you live. Da, da, da. He was just like, like I want a travel companion. Da, da, da. And I just couldn't go through with it. Like there was just something that I was just like, like this is, it doesn't feel like what I thought it was going to feel like.
Yeah.
And I know it would only get worse. Like I'd show up and be like, I can't fucking do this. And maybe, you know, who knows? I mean, I think it was also too, like where I was at the time of my life, like I was like moving back home. So I would have had to like, kind of like lie to my mom, you know, like it would have just been a weird situation. So I'm just glad that, I'm not glad, honestly, because I mean, again, if I would have been out of debt by now, I mean, me and my partner we'd be in a much better situation. I don't think he would have minded. It's like, why didn't you do it? God damn it.
Right. Yeah. Right.
But also I do want to add though, this was kind of interesting. So just how we were talking about using those apps, millennials spend an average of 10 hours a week on dating apps, which that's a good amount of time, you know? Yeah, right. 2 hours about a day or, you know, 1.5 hours a day, something like that. And the number of people using dating technology has more than tripled since 2013. And they also talk a little bit about also like the idea of using ethnicity filters being kind of like a not so great thing. I mean, it's good that we have them because obviously you want to be able to like, you know, curate, you know, who you're looking for. But to me, I really think that this in a way is a little bit, it's more constricting than you think. And I'll get into a second, like my last topic is like getting into tips on how to use them. Mm-hmm. But I really do think that like the filters for yourself versus what like you filter out for other people, right, is like a little bit different. Obviously that's like tip number one, aside from just try it out, but like make sure that like you are presenting what you really want, you know, like make sure that you are, or I'm sorry, present yourself the way you are, and hopefully what you want will kind of coincide with that. But I think sometimes like, using your preferential filters in a way that like filters out certain people of certain ethnicities and things like that. It's not only that it's like very like discriminatory and like low-key racist. I mean, I guess if you're a racist anyway, you should be filtering it out. But at the same time, it's just like, you really are cutting yourself off from a lot of like connections. And it doesn't always have to be a connection that ends romantically or ends in marriage or anything like that. You're just cutting yourself off of even experiencing what it's like to talk to people of different cultures, like what, you know, what's appropriate in other cultures and what's not, you know, because for me, at least, I learned a lot more from dating apps just based on like, I mean, most guys want to send a dick pic. That's just kind of across the board. But also too, like I had a lot of good conversations. They didn't always end in like meeting, but I did have a lot of pretty cool conversations with people from, you know, that like in my local area, but also people that would visit areas. If I went out of state, right, or like on a trip, I would get on the app and like chat with people. So I do think that it's worth more than just if you're looking for somebody to hook up with, I think it can be used better than that, if that makes sense.
Right.
What do you think?
And what?
I said, what do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's true. I think if you're going on an app, you hopefully are pretty open-minded already. So you're right. Like, don't turn on all these filters for some unrealistic picture of a person that doesn't exist, when really you could be opening yourself up to the opportunity to meet so many different interesting people, especially if you're in a new area, like you were talking about. Like, that's such a good example of when to use it.
Right.
Because that's how you can meet people and yeah, just explore.
Right, exactly. And that's like the part, I think it is on Bumble, and I think it's on another one as well. But there is it's on Bumble where it's only if there's another filter where it's like only for friends, meeting friends, right? And just meeting up with people. And then obviously you have apps like Meetup and all those things. And it's, it opens it up to so much more. I never use that side because I always say that I have enough friends, like, and I only have like 3, but I have enough. But if you are interested, I know a lot of people that use that site and love it. They've met some really cool people. Even if you don't want to meet lifelong friends, maybe you're just in a new space where you want to just go out and explore something, right? A lot of people that have like similar hobbies can meet on there. And then also that is kind of like one of the tips about using it. That also is a safer option for you. So we are both women, right? And we have had experiences not so pleasant that really can turn you off from using dating apps. Again, we are huge advocates, as everyone should, of consent. And it doesn't matter if I went on a date with you. It doesn't matter if I kissed you. It doesn't matter if I touched you in a sexual way. If I don't want to continue this sexual interaction, I have the right at any point to say no and get out of it. And so I think that is a really cool way also to meet someone, even if whether you're looking for a hookup, romantic, more, whatever. Using those types of options on the dating apps could be really helpful, and they could give you a lot more of security, but also get to know people and get to know people how they are around others, right? Where they're not able to curate the way that you see them because you're on a one-on-one date, right? How do they interact with people? How do they interact when you go on dates, right? And like, how do they treat like the customer service reps? And how do they treat people in, that they deem, quote unquote, under them, that are serving them, right? And I think that says a lot, because I've definitely been out on some dates where I was just like, you didn't tip enough, and like that's just like not going to be okay in like the long run.
Right. It does say a lot about a person how they treat someone when you go out to eat. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because it's like, first of all, have you never worked this job before or anything like this?
Yeah.
I don't think I could ever date someone that hasn't had a customer service job.
Yeah.
If you've never had to serve the general public, like, we're just like fundamentally not going to get along. Like, because there's certain things, like, I'm all about, getting what you pay for, sure. But like, there's just certain things that are out of your hands when you work in customer service. And if there's just like a policy that you don't like about the company, and you're like yelling at like the literal last person on the totem pole of that country, or of that company and country, honestly, there's just things that you won't understand because you've never worked in that position,
Yeah, that's really true.
Yeah, but anyways, unless you have anything more to say on that, I did just want to get into a few tips about
let's talk
using
about tips.
dating apps. Okay. Just the tip.
I'll take notes. Yeah, just the tip. Is that number 1?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Just try it out. Just a tip, just to see how it feels. But no, number 1 tip, and again, I found some tips online, but I'm gonna just throw it out there now. Not only were they the most misogynistic, like female-centered tips about what to do as a female, basically, like, they didn't say it explicitly, but there were like 3 different articles. And, given the first articles that come up are always going to be like Cosmopolitan and like Vanity or something like that. But they were just very much so way too geared toward like kind of curating that perfect profile, right? To get the most matches, right? And so the thing is, like, do you want the most matches, or do you want like the quality or the right matches? Exactly, right? Quantity versus quantity. Quality versus quantity. Mm-hmm. What do you want? And for some people, sure, if you want quantity, but doesn't everybody get quantity? Like,
right. Yeah. That's
I don't know.
that's
Yeah.
not
Anyways, point being, I was not very impressed with the findings. And
okay.
so to
Let's see what they
me,
said.
right, yeah. So to me, these were some of the best ones that I could find.
Okay.
So the first one was number one, try it out, right? Try
Mhm.
out an app. If you are thinking about why dating apps haven't worked for you in the past, or why you've just met a lot of people that say, oh, they haven't worked for me, like, and don't really give you advice on it, trying it out, it tends to be a safer option. And you really do get to decide what you would want to get from this app.
Yeah.
And so obviously I did mention, obviously don't have crazy high expectations, because expectations in anything is just, future disappointment, as we talked about. But trying it out is always the first step that tends to not, or a lot of people tend to stop right there, because they're like, it has a lot of connotations, right? Oh, it's just for hooking up. It's just for, well, it's what you make of it. So the first one, just try it out.
Right. I think I need to take that advice, because I definitely fall into that category. But we have a friend who, God bless her, she like put in the work. She went on a bunch of terrible first dates, and now she's in a super happy, committed relationship. And I've never seen her happier. And I know that it's possible. I mean, Ryann said she met her partner on an app. Like, it is very possible. Like, I know this is just me and my attitude and my trust and commitment issues. So anyway, tip number 2.
Fair enough. No, exactly. Tip number 2, be honest. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But it is. You should be very honest. But no, number 2, always meet in a public place. And so this wasn't just about the safety factor, although that was a big part of it. Obviously, you want to be safe. You want to make sure that you're not going to be able to meet the person if you don't feel safe with them. You're just going to be worried about your safety, right? And like getting out of there. So always meeting in a public place is also because, excuse me, it also puts yourself out there in a way. You're required to be around people and be social in a way that is going to happen when you are with this person, whether it's romantically or even that night, right? And so you get to see the person and their actual mannerisms, instead of, like it said, being one-on-one can even still be very curated, similar to the conversations and the texts that you had prior to meeting. So that was the second one, always meet in a public place. Number 3 tip was take it seriously. And this means take it serious for whatever you want. So if you want fun, be serious about having fun. Because if you actually want to find a relationship, but your profile says that you're all here for the fun, and everything that you're saying is very funny and just geared towards having fun, you're not taking seriously for what you want.
Right.
And vice versa, right? If your profile is coming off very, serious, and you're trying to have these deep conversations, but you're actually only looking for, something more short term, you're also not taking it serious, because you could be getting other people's feelings involved, and which could also lead to dangerous situations, right? Because when emotions come into play and somebody thinks that you're serious, more serious than you are, you've got, you could have like someone real hot and fiery on your hands, and they're like, what the fuck? This is not the conversations that we've been having. Like, I didn't want to just fuck you. So I liked that.
I did have that thing that happened.
That was really
kind of a scary situation. Yeah.
Oh, can I share?
Well, it was this guy, we hooked up, and I was like, oh, it was a fun night, but I kind of left it at that. And he was like writing me a lot the next day.
I remember this guy.
He was at work, and I was just like, I was being kind of short, like not really like, oh my gosh, it was, like not really egging on the situation. I just was kind of pulling back. And so, but not being mean. I didn't want to be like, no, I don't want to see you again. Like, it was just a fun night, and let's call it that.
Right.
But he was like, oh, well, I can tell my work I don't feel good. I can leave. I'm like, I just met you. Like, I literally just met you.
Yeah.
Like, it did get a little like worrisome. Like, as a woman, I was like, oh, like, he knows where I live. Like, it was like kind of a scary moment. I was kind of looking out the window, like, is he going to show up here?
Yeah.
So, because I did eventually tell him, like, look, I had a great time, but I don't really see this moving forward, in the same capacity. Like, he was kind of coming on strong, and that really put me off too. And so, but I was scared to tell him that, because of how strong he was coming in with all this, that it was just, it was a lot of anxiety around that.
Yeah.
That was like a rough 24 hours. I was like, not sure. And even the week after, I was kind of like, for cars in my parking lot, and I apartment. Like,
Yeah.
okay, like
peeking over your balcony. Yeah.
right. Yeah. It was
No, it's true. Which is why exactly going back to that meeting in a public place, because if it turns out to be that you're not on the same page for whatever the reason, right? You just want to make sure that these people don't necessarily always have attachments to you and can like pop up at any moment, right? You know,
where you live. I know.
I know where you live. Morgan doesn't even live there anymore. She's like, oh,
I know. He knows my old address. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. You can get my old penny savers. Oh no. But yeah, so I like that one. Take it seriously for whatever you want. Be conscientious that other people are on there for many different reasons, right? Everyone comes in as their own person. And even if you're confused, be honest about that. You can tell people that you're confused and that you're not sure, but at least it doesn't set up their, you know, their ideas to what this could be, right? If it's not going to be something. And also, there was another tip about if you want a relationship, be blunt about that. So relationships are a little bit different versus like, so basically the distinction was hookups, romantic dating, relationships, and then marriage, right? So like there are different distinctions within there because even wanting maybe a relationship doesn't necessarily mean you want to get married, right? Like marriage is a contractual agreement. Like that's a very different situation than just being in a relationship. A relationship is very different than just being in a romantic dating situation, and dating, we all know, is very different than just hooking up. So any of these, you could fall into any of these, or you could fall into all of these categories really, but you just need to know what categories you're in and choose wisely, right? Like make sure that you're not setting yourself up for disaster. Which again, I mean, I'm only telling you this because I've literally done it many a times. Yeah, we'll get into that in a second. And then also the last tip, which I don't know why this was necessarily a tip, but they just said like people can surprise you. And this can be for the better or worse, but just know that Morgan's like, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Surprise me at my office. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. But people can surprise you, meaning that, you know, you don't really know what is all out there until you try. Right. And so I think this is totally true, especially for myself. Dating is very romanticized within and idealized within our culture. It's something that's supposed to be this sweep you off your feet moments and you're just gazing at the stars and everything is just beautiful, right? But the reality is that even if that is true, right? Even if you have the perfect dating situation and everything works out, that is not real life, right? Like that's not the way your everyday is going to look. And it doesn't matter your situation. It doesn't matter how much or little money you have. Your day-to-day is just not, every day is not going to look like that. And so allowing people to surprise you, meaning that if you go on a, you know, seemingly mundane date, do you really want to be like wooed every single day? Does it have to be everything and more for you to get along with a person enough to like romantically date them? And you kind of have to decide that for yourself. Maybe for you, you do need that. You need that feeling of that rush, right? And I'm not saying you should be just like underwhelmed with your partner, but at the same time, but you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Right. It does make sense. And I get what you're saying. I feel like, you know, when you watch like a romantic movie, all those like grand sweeping gestures, but at the same time, I feel like with apps that those rose-colored glasses have come off.
Yes.
Because if I wanted some dick, I could get on my phone and order it like DoorDash. And so, yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, no, dating's exactly. a little different than how we see it in the movies.
Yes, most definitely.
So, I mean, hopefully you can find something in between that works for you between those two.
Yeah. It goes in between. It does. It fits right in.
I mean, that's all we're looking for, right?
See? We just got to be honest with our expectations.
That's right.
And then I liked just one other thing, meeting up within 72 to 96 hours of chatting in a public space. So this one, I've went back and forth. I've actually talked to quite a few couples that have met on dating apps, and it's mostly a resounding yes, as far as like, if you meet somebody that you're interested in, and again, whatever reason that you meet up for, you might be, you know, an early user of Grindr where you're just like, geolocation, 5 seconds away, I'm out the door, right? Like that might be what you're looking for. Right. But if you are looking for something any more than just on the hookup spectrum, if you're looking for romantic dating, relationships or marriage or more, kids and all those things, you want to meet up pretty soon after chatting. And I totally understand why. And like I said, I've kind of went back and forth with some people about this. Basically, unless you're looking for like a texting pal, right? Like if you want a pen pal, sure. Like you can, if you enjoy texting for whatever reason, like a psychopath. No, I'm just kidding. but if you enjoy that, sure. But if you're really looking to meet somebody, you do need to meet fairly quickly, because otherwise you're going to build up this whole persona. I compare it to like reading a book, right? Like if you read a book about this person and then finally meet them and then see the movie, it's like movie never lives up to the book, like you have to kind of pair it quickly. You need to pair these characteristics with the actual person fairly quickly, so that you're not like building this whole idea up in your mind of what this person is going to be. And then when you meet them, you're just like, wait, I thought, and like, that was really funny that you said that, but I guess that was just over text. It's like, it just sets up all of these like preconceived notions,
right. Like I thought you were funny, but really it took you 20 minutes to respond to that. So maybe now I get that you were thinking of something funny to say to that thing.
Yeah, exactly. Or you're just a slow talker. Have you ever met those?
Yeah.
Exactly. It's clearly not me and Morgan.
No, you know what? A lot of my family's from the South. So some things I'll just be like, when are you going to finish that sentence? So, yes, slow talkers. But,
right.
probably,
but that is
so
true.
Wouldn't want to date me either. Or
but that's
you.
the thing. Or yeah, I know. Or me. I know. Oh my gosh, I talk so fast. But that is the thing. I have met slower talkers. And when I say that, I mean, let's just be honest. Some people are dumb. You just got to be real with it. Everyone is not going to be on your intellectual level. And I've known, honestly, since I was in high school, that like everyone was not on my intellectual level. Just as far as like, again, keeping up with the conversation. Like I remember like me and one of my high school friends always used to say that. Like, you got to be able to keep up. Like there's a set pace, right? It's like SNL. You know what I mean? Like you gotta be able to keep up with the conversation. Otherwise you just get left behind. And I'm not gonna go back and be like, oh, this is what we meant by that. Like we're past that now.
You can't explain the joke. Keep going or get out. Like there's no in between here.
It's a cutthroat world out here, all right?
It is. I know. It's just us at a coffee shop with one other person. They're like, these bitches are so rude.
I'm sure that's happened so many times. They just nap you in laughter. Like, I don't know what's going on. Like, yeah. I mean, neither do we, but we're talking about it. So
I know. We don't know what we mean half the time. So
true.
We should get off our high horse and shut up, baby.
Yeah, exactly. If we just listened to their whole sentence, we'd know what they actually meant. But
I know it's something really profound and just so like enlightening. We were just talking over them, so we missed it.
Okay, so true story. I have been on, honestly, probably multiple dates, but one I can remember in particular. And it was this guy he was really nice, but he was just such a slow talker. And it really was like, I guess he was in like, really deep
was he
in thought.
Slow to respond, or was he like slow to get the sentences out?
It was more of the slow to respond.
Okay.
But it still leaves a lot of like downtime where I'm just like, my mind is all over the place. Like, do you hate me by now? Like, is the date over?
Was he like not keeping the conversation going, or were you directly like, you said, like, you asked him a question and he was like, one Mississippi in his head, and then he responded. Like, it was like he was almost getting annoyed that I would move on from that conversation because he hadn't answered yet. And so I just didn't, obviously we weren't going to work out, but it was like, he was taking a while to respond. Like, obviously we're eating and stuff too, but I'm like, I mean, come on. Like, I need to know, are you going to respond to that? Because if you're not, I can move on. You know what I mean? I'm like a comedian. I have like a whole lineup of jokes that I can go through. I'm like, okay, did that not work? Okay, cool. Right.
Let's like move on to the next subject.
Not feeling this. Okay, let me see. Let me pull out, like some grandma joke. Like, no, okay, I get what you're saying. I wonder if it's this though. I have seen a thing that I don't know, it's probably on Instagram, but it was like confident people like wait, like take a pause before they say something. Like, if you want to appear more confident, I think the video was about. You take a pause before you say something.
Yeah, appear. So this is the thing. I've seen this. I've actually seen quite a few guys, I will just say for sure. I've seen guys try to take this approach where it's like they're taking this like intellectual approach where they're like, I'm going to like wait it out and like let her sweat a little. And I'm just like, first of all, I sweat anyway, not just you. But also too, like all I'm going to do is fill that in with like jokes or like dumb questions to like make you say something back. I'm not going to wait for you to like have your like James Bond moment where just like, I'm so deep and inquisitive.
Right. I'm not like in awe now because you took like too long to respond to my question. I'm like, am I boring you? Like, okay, I guess I'll tell you about like this dog I had when I was 6 now because I just am trying to fill the silence. So,
no, quite literally. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and I've also, so now we can just, I mean, the last topic that I want to chat about was just like some funny stories, but I also wanted to incorporate ours as well. And I've seen it happen. I was just watching a show. Oh, I think it was Sex Education actually. And it was like
on Netflix. Everyone watch it. So
yes, so good. But I can't remember if it was actually that show. I was watching something else, I think. Anyways, point being, there was like a scene where like the guy said something and it was like one of those, it was like a backhanded compliment, but it was like negging, right? Where like that like thing that you do, I don't really know totally how to explain it, but it's basically when you try to like, give enough backhanded compliments to make people want to like pursue you. Like you're trying to make people like want you.
Right. You play on their insecurities so that they start to feel like they need to seek validation from you.
Yes. Oh, perfect. Good. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, oh, wow. Like a guy walks into a bar and he tells a girl like, oh, your hair color is so pretty, but I don't know about those bangs. You're like,
oh, yeah.
Excuse me?
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Right. And you're like, and then, yeah, exactly. And said girl, especially if she's like a few drinks in, is like, oh, I think they framed my face actually quite nice. But that's his in, right? So now he actually gets to get more conversation from you, even though you're not really into it. But now you're curious as to why he has said this thing. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I think that would work on me. I really like to
definitely
fight with
worked
people.
on me.
Like,
no, but that's
one
the
of,
thing,
like,
exactly.
That's definitely, if I'm flirting with you, I'm probably being mean to you. So I really enjoy like a confrontational flirting.
Oh, for sure. But see, I like that. Yeah, exactly. It's not negging, it's confrontational flirting. But but no, you're right, because this is interesting. So this brings me back to another date where this guy tried this on me. And I was just like, dude, you are like not even worth it.
If
which
you're
I
not
like
feeling it though, it feels manipulative. Like you see the game. Like
exactly.
If you're there to play, you're like, okay, I'll come back.
Right.
I'll tell you, like, yeah, the sneakers are real nice. On someone who had bigger feet, maybe. I don't know if that's a good example.
There you
I'm
go.
just saying. Like,
what
else would you say to a guy? Like,
for a slow talker, it'd be perfect. Yeah.
Prostitutes went out into the 2000s, bro. Although I don't think you'd be trying to go home with a guy with frosted tips. Why can't I think of a good example?
Because guys have no personality anyways. They have like nothing on that you can talk about. They're all in like Marvel t-shirts and khaki pants, and you're just like, oh, you're a walking joke, dude. Like, if I really wanted to kill you, I could, but I don't need to, because you're still trying to get this. That's the thing, right? Like you're still the conquest, so you don't actually have to use negging because they're there either way. I could neg them all night, and they're like, oh yeah, it'd look better if it took it off. I'm like, see, exactly. Yeah. Anything leads to sex with you.
Yeah.
If that's what's true. Anyways, so I had a date. Oh my gosh, I had a date. And we had I would say that's a perfect way to describe it. Like confrontational flirting, just kind of kicking it back at each other, which again, this was before I understood what I really should be doing on dating apps if I wanted to meet someone. But I was kind of like in the middle space of like, I don't really know if I want to date. I don't even really know if I wanted to hook up. And that night kind of confirmed I didn't want to actually hook up. So I told you about this. So I go to his house and
everyone else.
Yeah, I know. So I'll share it with the viewers and the audience. Yeah. So I go to his house, and this was mistake number one. We should have just met in public. But I go to his house, and he walks out to my car and gets in immediately. And I was like, oh, hi. So we're in my car and he's like, yeah, so where do you want to go? And I was like, I don't know. This is a date that you asked me out on. So I expect that you had a place for us to go. And he was like, that's fine. I can think of something. Great. So we start driving and he makes a comment about my car. And this is before I had a nice car, but it doesn't matter. Fuck you. You got into my car.
Right.
He was like, and he literally said, oh, if I would have known you, if I knew like you were driving this, I would have drove. That should have been the point that I kicked it out of the car. I literally should have just said, open the door, open my manual door. I don't need to unlock it for you and get the fuck out. Yeah. But I didn't, right? So I continue. Because again, I didn't know what I wanted at this point either. So we get to our date of choice. He chooses to take me to Yoshinoya.
Which is basically fast food sushi for no one who has been there or hasn't heard of it.
Yeah.
It's worse. Sushi.
Right. Fast food sushi. It's worse than Panda Express, if you know what that is. It's just not good. It's not a date. And he took me there. I took him there, actually.
I was going to say, actually, you were the driver. So
I took him there. So we go, and he sees someone that he knows, like, close by to the area, because he's, like, a student of the area close by, and, like, puts his hand on the small of my back to, like, make sure that they know that he's with me. So he definitely wanted to be seen with me, because obviously I was the prize in this situation, right? He was the reacher. So I was like, oh, okay, so you do want to be seen with me. You just want to neg me all night, right? So that's the thing. So then we go in to have the date. He goes up to the register in front of me to make sure that he's in front of me. But the lady at the cash register, which I really appreciate, she like looks over behind him and is like, would you like something? And I was like, I might, I don't know. And he's like, well, I could. And I was like, it's all good. Like, it's all good. Just buy your food. So he does, right? Of course he does. So we eat our bowls. I'm so annoyed. I can't believe I even stayed. Whatever. It was a while ago, but it wasn't that long ago. We live and
learn, but this does not sound like confrontational flirting. Like this doesn't sound fun, like Battle of the Wits or something. This is like exactly. He's rude.
No, exactly. And that's what, so at dinner, he was saying, at Yoshinoya, he said something and he was like, oh yeah, you were like a lot more fun over text, like like, because we did have like a few phone calls as well. He's like, oh yeah, you were a lot more fun over the phone. And I was like, yeah, I bet. Like I don't care, right? Like I'm not, again, what he thought he was doing, but again, it was working a little bit because I was still there, right? I didn't leave yet, right? Because like in some weird way, I'm like wanting to prove him wrong. So we leave, right? We leave Yoshinoya and then we go back to his place. He's like, oh, I have, he was like, I have an aquarium, like, you know, like I want to show you or whatever.
I want to show you my fish. Ew, that is not a cute pickup line. Get out of here.
Of course it's not a good pickup line. Ugh. But this is me at this moment. So I'm like, okay. Because I kind of knew at that point, like, if I do have sex with you, like, it would be because I just want to have sex. You know what I mean? Like, maybe I just want some sex, right?
Yeah.
So I go in the house. He shows me it. It's underwhelming, as any aquarium would be. Is it like a
goldfish in a glass bowl?
No, it was actually a very large aquarium, but clearly they didn't take care of it very well because it smelled like an aquarium in there. No. I was like, you know, you're not a fisherman. Like, you just have a gross aquarium that you don't clean enough. So that's fine.
At least take care of it. If this is your draw for getting women back to your apartment, clean your fish tank, bro.
Which it probably wasn't even his, honestly. He probably like lived with a family or something like that. But anyway, so we go into his room and I'm like sitting there and I could just see that now at this point, that's the thing. Negging only works to a certain point. Now you actually have to put on charm to get me in your bed, right? So I'm like, what are you gonna do? Which again, this isn't safe. I don't recommend this to anyone. But I'm like sitting there literally just kind of like this, like just not in any way putting out any like sex vibes. I'm just like sitting there. And he leans and like tries to put his hand on my knee, but like backs out and like kind of swipes the side of my thigh and just like completely loses all the color in his face because he realizes that I did not return anything. And so I say to him, oh, that was nice. I was like, was that your move? was that your whole move? And he was like,
yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm like, you know, like you didn't like, you know, lean in. I was like, no, I shouldn't have to. And like, you know, so then he like tried to kind of lean in and I literally like backed my head up and was like, I gotta go. And so I just like got up
Yes.
and he was like, okay, like, well, he like tried to like clean it up with like so like, we'll text me later. We never talked again. Like, you'll never, like, the fact that you really thought that you could like parade me around as some trophy and then not pay for my Yoshi fucking Noya. There was no good ending for you, but he thought there could be. And that was enough, that was a gratification enough for me.
Was this a Tinder? Was this a Hinge? Was this a
Bumble?
This
Yeah,
was
this
a
was Bumble.
Okay.
Yeah. This was Bumble. I think this is honestly one of the last times I had Bumble. After that, I think I downloaded Hinge and I almost deleted Hinge. And then like, yeah, I kind of got a little bit better at it. Hopefully. Yeah. Verdict's still out.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's funny.
Okay, so last but not least, before we get out of here, I did find a few funny stories because, as always, with dating apps, of course, there's going to be, the good, the bad, and the real ugly. But there were some pretty funny stories of, just what could come of these random dates. And so I tried to only find ones that actually started with that they met in a public place. I wanted to follow at least my own rules. And honestly, anything that happens outside of that is probably not something that you can't, find yourself. So, but anyways, continue. Yeah. So the first story that I found was a friend from class matched with my then girlfriend, now ex, and he informed me of the match and proceeded to set up a coffee date. So instead of him showing up to the date, I did. I had the pleasure of watching my girlfriend freak the fuck out.
Oh, wow. Yikes. That's true. So, what, 40% of affairs start online now, or whatever that statistic was? There you go. Oh,
yeah.
I mean, there it is.
Yeah, in action, exactly. I don't know, setting up people, that just feels so weird. It's like, just break up. Like, they literally are planning dates without you. Like, just leave. But yeah, so that was story number one. Story number two, it was a perfectly nice date, according to this guy. But 20 minutes into the date, she says, I'll be honest, I know what I need in a man and you don't have it. and then left the date. Hey, be honest. I mean,
I know.
She met you and was like, you're not checking the boxes. I gotta go.
Right. That's, harsh but fair.
Harsh but fair again, right? And like he says, perfectly nice date. You knew each other for 20 minutes. I mean, what was a perfectly nice date? Hi, how are you? Like, did you find it okay?
Right. No, that's true. Perfectly nice.
Yeah, I don't want a perfectly nice date.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
All right. Third story. So on a date, she tried to sell me insurance over dinner. She had a full pitch prepared and even insulted me for choosing my current provider. I split the check and then I split.
This is what I feel like it would date. This is what I think it would feel like if you dated someone who was like in an MLM, or like
Morgan,
part of a pyramid scheme.
We are too fucking close. I literally typed MLM strategy ? Really? Yes, because that's what I said. I was like, is this like an untapped market for the MLMers out there? That's not a bad idea.
I know.
Yeah. I mean, don't fucking do it. Don't do it.
Yeah.
And you better pay for the dinner.
Yeah.
You're gonna do that,
If you're gonna use it as a business like tax write-off later, because that's what you're trying to do.
There you go.
You better pay.
Yeah, exactly. That's so true. Yeah, she's like, can I keep the receipt though? I know you paid, but can I get a copy of that? Yeah.
Oh my God.
But my other theory about this was, did she think that this was going downhill and then pivot to the pitch? Like she was like, he's not worth it, but I do need to make my quota by tomorrow. So who's your insurance provider?
She's a savvy businesswoman.
I mean, all of the above, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Column A, column B. Another one was, I met this guy on Tinder. We met up at the movie theater. He didn't speak to me the entire time. He paid for my ticket and bought me a bunch of movie snacks. We just watched the movie, and after it was over, he gave me a 50 and said bye.
What? That kind of sounds like my ideal date, though.
I literally was thinking that, like, is this the worst we have? Because isn't that great? You didn't have to talk to the guy. He got you the best movie snacks. You got to see a movie. And then like he left you with a little like, home
parting
money
gift. Yeah. $50. That's
$50. That pays for like 2 tickets and some movie candy.
Right. It's a movie candy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And 1 medium popcorn.
And 1 medium popcorn with no refills.
Yeah.
But yeah, exactly. I mean, you left, on the plus. I don't know. I that's not a bad date.
That's true. Yeah. You weren't in the red when you left.
Yeah.
You made a profit.
You made a profit. Exactly. It's very good.
It's not the worst one. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And the last one I found, this was what's the weirdest date. And so we were going to see a movie and didn't buy tickets in advance and couldn't get 2 tickets next to each other. So we ended up sitting on opposite sides of the theater. And then the movie ended and we were like, okay, cool, bye.
That's okay. You can't really talk in a movie theater anyway. So it's not really a great place for a first date.
Right.
But also, why didn't you just not see the movie or see a different movie?
Exactly. Like, why did you both agree?
Was it such a good movie? Was it like, did Avatar just come out? I'm not saying that was a great movie. I just said a lot of people went to go see it,
Yeah.
What was it?
What was it is that you didn't really want to be on dates. If you're both are too nice to just, or, that's not even nice, right? But if you two are too socially awkward to like broach that and be like, oh, let's just not go to the movie.
Yeah.
That's the date you deserved. You know what I mean? Like, not the date you wanted, but the date you deserved.
Right.
So, but yeah, not the worst, but definitely the weirdest. But I would say, again, if that's the way it ended, that's the way you wanted it to end. You could have got some ice cream after. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you could have talked about the movie. You literally just both saw the same movie. So
yeah. Wouldn't you want to like gather your notes together? Like, you couldn't even sit together to be like, hey, it's a good part,
right.
like nudge, nudge. Like, you couldn't do that.
No, exactly. So,
okay.
Yeah, not the worst, but the weirdest. I will give you that. It's the weirdest
odd.
From the outside, though. I don't know why for you. I'm sure you probably had a lot of other weird dates if that's the way you figured out what to do in a movie theater. You were both too indecisive. It's just like, let's just see it separately.
Right.
But anyways, I just want to wrap this up. This has been a very fun and interesting conversation. Of course, on episodes like this, I feel like we're always going to have a little bit more to say just because we do have experience with these topics and they have played a role in the way that we've approached dating or the way we haven't approached dating. And so, before we wrap up, any last thoughts about dating apps that you'd like to leave with the people?
I would like to say, be nice. Like, a rejection on the app is not that big of a deal. At least it feels like to me. I can't speak to anyone else's experience. But I have had people say some mean shit, and I'm like, I don't even know you. And I know it's that anonymity of the internet. People can be trolls and whatever, but don't be that asshole.
Right.
That's not cool. Like, if you're not vibing with that person, guess what? You'll never see them. So why does it matter?
Yeah,
it's all good. You have 20 other matches. You swiped on 30 people, and yet you're like not feeling this one person. So you got to be a dick. Like, not cool. I don't think that's cool. Exactly. So,
yeah, agreed. Right. Be nice. Exactly. Because that's the thing, are you doing it wrong? You're probably not doing it wrong. It's just that everyone has different reasons for being on these apps. And you don't know if they're being truthful about it or not. Right. And so, I just always think, what I want to leave it with is like, you can just ghost them. You don't have to say anything back. You can just leave it at that.
Ghost them.
It's the beauty of the app. You don't have to awkwardly sneak out to the bathroom. You can just literally exit out and nothing will ever happen, or you can swipe and delete the little conversation. Nothing will happen.
Until you see them when you are out and about. No, I'm just kidding. I think I have seen a guy I matched with and then like it didn't go anywhere. I think I saw him at like a Starbucks and I was like kind of ducking and like trying to avoid him because I wasn't sure. I was like, he looks really familiar. Why? And then I was like, oh my God, like it dawned on me. And so I was like, doing like one of these, like covering my face. Like I was just, I'm not sure. Like it's just such a small, like such, photos of him like from 5 years ago. I don't know, but it might be him. And so now it's weird.
I know. Yeah. They're calling out her drink. Morgan, macchiato for Morgan. She's like, can you just pass it over here? Just put it aside.
Right. I'm like pointing at someone else. I think your drink is ready.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, if you think you're doing it wrong, you probably, you might have. I mean, I know I've used apps wrong. But also so many people have so many different reasons for using them. So just make sure that you're honest with your intentions because you're never going to be able to control anybody else's.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think we'll leave it there. And anything else will definitely have to be covered in another episode.
Yeah, we could talk about this all night. This
Right.
was a fun one.
Yes, definitely. And so thank you to all of our listeners. We really enjoy chatting about all these things, and we hope that you do too. And we'd love to hear from you. So feel free to share your story with us on Instagram. Don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And if you are tuning in for the visual conversation on YouTube, please like and subscribe this video and share with someone, right? If you know somebody, which we all know somebody that's on the dating apps or has been or wants to try them, feel free to send it to them. And, maybe we can help them. Maybe we can give them some wisdom.
Yeah. Some tips and tricks and things to avoid.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Red flags.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But anyways, this has been awesome. Have a wonderful whatever time of the day it is for you. And we will see you in the next episode.
See you guys later. Bye.
Bye.